Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's video demonstration of the module assignment. This week we will be working on plan oblique or Paraline drawings, and specifically plan oblique drawings, which are often referred to as axonometrics. So before we start, I'd like to just let you know that I've lots of notes here, so trying to stay on focus so we can move through a lot of this information in an orderly fashion. So before we start, I want you to know that there's information in the textbook and also in the lecture presentation that was made earlier. So please refer to that, and then also to any of the lesson requirements or the assignment requirements identified on the Canvas LMS. So to get things started, it would be appropriate also to print out some reference information. So we have the formatting assignment information here, so make sure that you refer to that, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Additionally, we have an example. Now I want to point out a couple notes on here that are important to observe. One, that this is not a plan oblique, this is an isometric drawing, and it will not be correct. It is there as a reference to identify the inventory of things that you need to represent in your finished work. The other thing is it is at a very small scale, so do not use this for anything more than just a spot check to see if the things look correct. Now, there are some other elements in here that probably won't exactly match here. My comment is this is for reference, this is not the model. So watch the video through and see if that gives you the information you need. Also, please do have your information that you've developed in previous assignments. So what we're talking about there are the plans, the sections, the elevations that you did in your previous assignments, because that information is essential to successfully completing this work. And as we've said in the beginning, we need you to safeguard that information, keep it in a safe place, either in a portfolio or some similar folder, so that you can pull it out and use it for the remainder of the semester. And we will be continuing to use this information. So as we do so, I think it's important that you remember that to please set up your drafting station or your drawing station in a way that works for you. Please make sure that you have all your tools, your scales, your triangles, your pencils, erasers, etc., and your materials, which will include, again, 11 by 17 vellum and possibly some drafting tape or drafting dots as required. So, and then finally, in this kind of preview, it's probably not a bad idea to get a sheet of paper and take down some notes as this demonstration goes along. So in case something doesn't look right, you can circle it or make a note to yourself and go back and look at this piece. I'm going to try to be as descriptive with the video and the assignment as much as possible, and so that you can complete this work in an orderly way. Now, for a few words about Paraline drawings. One of the things that you probably need to know is that this is really our first effort at creating three-dimensional information or illustrations of the drawings we've been doing. Up until now, we've been working with multi-view drawings, which are orthographic in nature, and they typically represent just two-dimensional elements. width and height, or only 2 dimensions. Now, as mentioned in the lecture, we are now expanding that to include not just the y and the x ordinance, but also a z ordinance, which gives us that sense of depth. And so with this, there comes a certain amount of distortion, a certain amount of optical illusion that occurs with these drawings. And as such, you need to be conscious of how these drawings are going together so you can see how each of the multi-view orthographics contributes and adds to this completed three-dimensional illustration. Now, the great thing about this is that we can use the scale to complete the drawings, and we can, and they're generally pretty good with proportion and size and reference scale. So you can test them to make sure that they are the correct drawing at the correct location, and that you're building the drawing correctly. So they upon completion, they'll look similar to what a realistic object would look like, but they're not. They are simply a Paraline drawing. In future weeks and assignments, we'll see what that more realistic view looks like, and we'll talk about it then. But this gives you that three-dimensional sense, and so that's an important element to consider. Now, the other part that I want you to understand about this is these drawings are largely analytical. What they do is they provide the designer with an opportunity to look at how these multi-view pieces go together in multiple parts to create a three-dimensional object. And so they're very helpful to the designer in seeing all those parts that you put together beforehand and making sure that when this wall meets this wall, that everything is aligned and that things make sense. As a result, we do not use these and provide them to clients because they can be a little bit perplexing for them. And so as we go forward with drawings and we want the client to see them, then we'll spend time with perspective drawings, which we'll see in the coming weeks. But for now, this information is largely used for self-analysis of what's going on with my design. Number two, to sharing that analysis with your peers or your partners at work and on your project team. And then maybe, depending upon the aptitude and the quality of general contractor, you can share some of these drawings as a way of describing complicated arrangements of things to them. But that's kind of an iffy proposition. So I offer that as a possible use for this information. So please pay attention to the forthcoming videos as we get ready to start. Please be aware that we will be working on a block out only, and that means that you will be responsible for completing the drawings with more of a title block formality. You've seen this before, and this is kind of what the drawing is going to look like. But if you try to draw this drawing perfectly the first time, I'm pretty certain you're going to mess it up. You're going to be off center, you're going to be too high or too low or off the and so what we want you to do is to work out all the issues with this preliminary block out, or as we'll call it, kind of a rough out. And after you're done, then you can align it in your title block and make it perfect for a balanced illustration. So that's what we want you to do. So as a result, please pay attention to that. Also, you'll need to provide that drawing with all the complementary information necessary, which would include, labels, titles, and scale information, as we've done in the past. So some other information that might be important to understand is that, again, you are piecing together this information, and so you're going to need to have that available. And in the next video, this is just a preview, but in that next video, we're going to go through the mechanics of it very specifically, and we're going to talk about, the rules for connecting these pieces together to create this three-dimensional element. So I want you, as you're doing this exercise and you're drawing it, remember to connect the hand, the eye, and the brain together to see actually what's going on. And as the drawing starts to develop for you, I want you to observe it and take it in so that you'll be more understanding of what the drawing is showing and how it's, how it's meant to go together. So again, the rules will be coming up on that in the next video, and we'll go through those right at the beginning so you'll know what that's about. So again, not a bad idea to take some notes. Look for the process. You're going to see a repeatable process. You're going to observe it on the plan. You're going to project it onto the new drawing, and you're going to project vertically up, and you're going to see that process repeated over and over. So hopefully that will make sense to you, and you can then keep that in mind, because next week's assignment is part 2 of Paraline drawings, and the process does not change. The same things we start with this week we'll be using in the next assignment, and I think it'll make sense to you as we do that, especially if you're observant of the rules and the way we put this drawing together. With that said, I'm going to close this part of the video assignments as our preview, and I will see you in the next video assignment demonstration. And until then, I'm going to say so long, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Thank you.